So, thanks for joining me here tonight, Anne. I've got my Teesside Uni backdrop because I think that's the last time I saw you. So can you tell me a little bit about your involvement with the creative arts?
Right. Well, do you know what? This is really weird because I think, I've been writing and doing things since I can remember. I've just loved all that stuff. So I wouldn't call it, to say, oh, you've been involved in the arts. It sounds far too grand for what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? But
Well, please, I just want to say, don't have that opinion. This is a project that covers all kinds of involvement. It doesn't have to be something that you make a living out of or that you want to make a living out of. It's more about what the arts mean to you and what they give to you.
yeah. Okay. All right. So what was the question?
Tell me about your writing. Tell me about what you do in the arts, because I know you're playing yourself down a bit because we were at university together.
I know. Well, do you know what happened? This is really quite bad, but about 12 years ago, I started a blog, and it was just really a site where I went on to rant. And I think at that time, my life was just shit, really. Well, it felt shit. Everyone has those periods, don't they? So I went on and I used to rant my head off. And basically, it was like a diary. And I did it on WordPress, and I kind of hit the publish button just for the hell of it. And you know what? I got some feedback from it. And instead of people, because I thought, this is terrible, all this stuff's happening to me, and people coming back going, that's the funniest thing I've read for years. And I thought, are you mad? That's terrible what's happened. But they thought it was hysterical. And I thought, maybe it is quite funny, I suppose. But I did end up with quite a few followers, but the writing was really quite shabby. But I ended up with a few followers, and the more that started following the blog, I started to get a bit twitchy about it because it was all based on reality. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get myself into trouble here. So I thought, you know what, let's look at what I'm doing, try and get some structure to it, and try and turn it into something a little bit more professional, So that's what I did. And then I found writers online, and I got lots of tips and stuff like that. And then I thought, you know what, let's just go the whole hog. Let's go to uni. Let's do this course. I was so delighted when funding became available for postgrad qualifications. And really, that's where it all started from. I mean, I've written since I was little, and I can, some of the poems were absolutely just bloody awful. There's no two ways about it. They were dreadful. But I can remember when I was really little, when I was about 7, and I used to be worried that there wouldn't be enough books in the world, that I would read all the books and I'd just run out of things to read. And I used to get really quite concerned. I wouldn't say it was an anxiety attack, but I used to get really concerned about it. So it's always been there, and I can remember at 7, I think my brother was reading me a story, and I was looking at this book and I was just thinking, oh my God, it must be so great to be able to write a book, And I already felt it then, and it's just been with us my whole life, really. I've just been, words are just, I don't know, I love them. And I find that if I'm not writing, I get a little bit twitchy. I sort of go, oh, I've got to. And I think it's that alone time, isn't it? It's that kind of downtime where you can put everything into perspective. You can put things on the page. You can see things for what they really are. You just make sense of the world, don't you? So I do, in a bit of a bizarre way. So yeah, I mean, that's what it is to me. I think it's
Wow.
personal thing. And I'll be honest, I've always done it up until uni. I'd always done it in this very kind of secret bubble. It's like, it's my writing, nobody's going to see this is mine. I mean, I kept diaries, right through my teens. I kept diaries, and oh my God, it's just excruciating looking at them. I can't even read them. I just can't. I'm going to have to sit down and read them one day, but I just open them now and then at a random page and I go, oh my God, Oh my God. Thank God I didn't die when I was 17, because this is what people would have of me. It would just be awful.
Well, there's so much to respond to there.
Yeah.
I think writers always have that dilemma. I think I'm going to misquote. I think it's Hanif Qureshi, but I might be completely wrong. If you've got a writer in the family, then you've got a problem. If you are a writer and you're writing personal material, then you have a problem. You've always got that dilemma of what can you say, what can't you say?
Yeah.
And I think, and again, like, even though you might think that what you wrote was terrible back when you were young, it was all part of the development process. You're learning.
It was, yeah.
And I've got a friend, Selena Godden, who's a poet, and she's got this amazing poem called I Want Love, where she's taken this poem that she wrote when she was 15, that's just like turn it into a poem that she's written now about writing that, and it's absolutely brilliant. So you never know when any of this is going to be source material.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I still write, even when I'm not like trying to put a story together or something like that, I still write. You know, if something's happening, I find I've got to write that down before I forget it. And you know what? It's that bad that on a Saturday night, I'll normally pop up a friend's house or something, and she might be telling me something that's gone on, and I'll be thinking, my God, I've got to write that down. And I think, if these people knew what I was doing. But I do.
This is how we capture stuff, you know. Previous interviews I did with the playwright and screenwriter Ishii Din, and he says that's exactly what you need to do everywhere you go. Everything, like if anything strikes you, get it down, and it might be part of a character.
Oh, definitely.
Along the way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some of the things that happen to people, it's really quite funny. I mean, some of them are quite traumatic, but for me, I always find that I'm trying to look for the humour in a situation, and I don't think there are many situations where there isn't an element of humour. I think that maybe at the time it doesn't always show itself in such an obvious way, but then when you get a bit of distance between yourself and that incident, or you know, whether it's time or whatever, and then you look back and you think, actually, that was bloody hysterical, you know. But sometimes you're too close to it at the time to see that. And I think, to be honest, that's probably what happened when I started the blog. At the time when I was doing it, I was too close to it to see how funny the story was that I was telling about, you know, whether it was my day or whatnot. And but obviously other people who weren't as close to it were reading it and thinking, this is just mad. That wasn't quite the reaction I was hoping for, but I don't really know what reaction I was hoping for, but there we go.
A lot of the time, I don't know why it keeps doing that. I don't know if it's doing at your end. Apologies to people watching. Just, you know, even the worst situations, I think once you get to the point where you can see the humour in it, it's really important and it really helps.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And obviously, as you say, other people could relate to it, but saw the humour in it because they weren't right up close to it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it, you know. And looking back on it now, I actually found, oh my God, the writing's awful. It's just terrible, because I was just ranting and I found this diary entry from 2010. And you know, it was that winter where it was just snow for weeks. You know, the country turned into Narnia for about 6 weeks. And oh God, I remember the time I put my back out. I couldn't move. I had a cold, so every time I sneezed, I was in agony. I had a 6-foot couch stuck in my kitchen because I tried to move the couch. And then obviously I put my back out, so I couldn't move the bloody couch. It was stuck in my kitchen. Oh, Jesus Christ. I thought, this is just terrible. But when I was sort of telling the story in this blog that I was doing, people just thought it was, you know, quite funny. That was another one of them. But
have you read
yeah, carry on.
Have you read David Bentley's Long Dark, Tea Time with the Soul, and Holistic Detective Agency.
Sorry?
Douglas Adams' book, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. That starts with a sofa being stuck forever on a landing.
Really? Oh, wow. Oh, well, mine was just down to a very basic mathematical miscalculation. Apparently, you can't get a 6-foot couch through a 3-foot gap. Who knew?
Brilliant. There's something else I wanted. So keep making my mind go off on these fantastic. So oh yes, it's like I remember that it was the last winter we had, wasn't it? And I had a 2-month-old baby and a 4-year-old who I needed to walk through the permafrost to primary school. It was quite an adventure. Yeah, I think that is the last winter we had. So it's great that you know all of these things. They're capturing moments in time as much as anything, and that's really important. Like for example, it's the night of the US elections. We're 2 days from lockdown number 2, and so it's great. Like it's really important, I think, to capture what everyone's up to in Teesside at the moment, but also to capture kind of historic moment through these interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you know what? I have been really fortunate throughout this because I work in the civil service, but in my job, and I haven't sort of I suppose it hasn't kind of escaped me, I guess, at how fortunate I am to have that I suppose security job-wise. And I think that there's a lot of people in a very precarious situation, and my heart really does go out to them. And I think that I never imagined a time when I might say that I feel fortunate to be doing the job that I'm doing. I mean, I've never disliked the job, but I never felt particularly fortunate to have that job. And now I do, because there are so many people in such difficult sets of circumstances, and we don't know when it's going to end, do we? We just don't.
No.
So, and the stress and the pressure.
No, we don't know the outcome going to be. And also, it's like I think we've also found out who the important workers are and what the essential jobs are, and that kind of perspective on it had been really skewed in the past. So you've worked throughout. Have you been able to do anything creative as well in the meantime?
I have. Well, actually, I've been writing for the Tees Online. But I have, but I haven't been doing as much as I would have liked to have been doing, because I've been decorating the house. I've been doing things that I've been putting off for a very long time. I mean, when I was doing my MA, everything stopped for my MA. And then after that, I changed jobs twice, still within the civil service, but different departments and whatnot. And I felt like I had to get myself sorted out so that I could then settle and focus a bit more on things. And I feel that time is now. It's kind of started to happen now. I mean, I'm working from home at the moment, and really we've been told that we're going to be at home, forever. So that's great for me. I know a lot of people will struggle with that because they like to have that contact, but I'm quite sort of self-sufficient, I think, in that respect. And I think maybe it is the writer in you, where it is quite a monastic lifestyle, isn't it? In some instances, you're kind of locked away, working away. But every morning at 6:30, I meet a couple of friends and we go for a walk, a 3-mile walk, every morning at 6:30. So I've got that kind of contact, and it's really good to have that. It sort of gets you up, it makes you get up, you're getting out, you're having those conversations. And I haven't told them, but I am using those conversations, totally using them. I am. In fact, I'm not going to lie, I've got home from those walks, and before I've even started work, I've got my book out and my pen, and I'm because I don't know, you, like you say, you get all this inspiration from all over the place, and I've got to say, some of their opinions they just conflict with my own opinions. I mean, not a little bit, it's just a complete opposite. But I also think that's sometimes quite good, because it's, you know, it's very easy to talk to people who think and feel the same as you. And actually, I like that, because it gives me, it is comforting, isn't it? You think, oh my God, thank God the whole world isn't crazy. You know, there are, because obviously I'm sane, you know, there are people who can see the insanity in what's happening in the world right now. With all the conspiracy theories and the what, you know, everything else. But then you meet these people and you, oh my God, honestly, we'll have to have another conversation about this, because some of the stuff they say, hey, crikey. And I just think, I didn't realize that people thought this in the real world. I thought it was only trolls online. You know what I mean? You're like, and I have had these conversations with that when they've said things that are really, you know, I can't believe. And I've had to say, you know, look, whoa, you are wrong. This isn't just a matter of opinions. You are actually factually wrong in what you're saying. I don't know whether I'm hoping to convert them or what.
I don't think there is any converting. I think when you've got a government that tells you not to trust experts, and and people trust the government, it makes things really, really tricky. But I'm really glad that it's given you some source material. I'm really glad you're doing so well at lockdown. And I really look forward to reading some of the stuff that comes out of this.
Do you know what? I've got a bit sidetracked, I must admit, because I was doing a story for the Crossing the T's thing. Anyway, I never got it finished to my satisfaction, because in my opinion, the story arc is all wrong. Everything happens in the last sort of page, you know, it all kind of culminates in the last page or two. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to send it in. And the closing date was like midnight on the 31st, and I sent it in at 23:54.
Brilliant. Well, it's
yeah, and you know what, I did it because I thought, I don't really like this story that I've written. I don't, you know, the writing's okay, the writing's all right, I haven't got any problem with the way it's written, it's just the story's a bit crap, right? And it needs something more in there. So, but I just thought, you know what, I promised myself I was going to submit a story to this competition, so I've got to do it, whether or not it's rubbish or not, it's going in, and then I can forget about it, stop beating myself up about it, and just crack on and do the next one and the next one and the next one. And I think that's a really trick. Yeah,
that's some advice. I mean, we've really run over, but you've covered, it's like really like your angles, and that is a great point to finish on. I think any aspiring writer, don't trust your own inner critic. If you've said you do something, send it off, get feedback. You know, this is the way that we develop. So I'm really glad that despite what you might think about it, you've submitted it, and you know, and good luck.
It was close. It was close. And like I said, I'm happy with the writing, the actual writing. There's nothing, you know, it flows nicely and all of that, and it's all very, you know, from my point of view, I'm quite pleased with the way that it's written. I just think that the substance is a bit lacking. But there we are, not to worry. It's like having I don't know, it's like margarine instead of butter. I'm a butter person. If I'm going to have something on my bread, it's got to be butter. It's got to have everything in it, you know. I don't know, margarine. And what I sent in was margarine. But there we are.
Well, I'm sure there'll, you know, potential there, and you've done it. And all power to you. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Let's hope we get to meet up
Oh
in the
yeah.
world.
Oh, I do hope
Honestly.
so. And I just want to say, you know what? Some of the stuff you put on your page is hysterical. And the only reason I don't like more of the posts is because I've got an 80, well, actually, she's not 89. It's my dad who's 89. My aunt, she's 92 and she's on my friends list. And I think if I click like on that, she's going to see it. And I'm not sure her 92-year-old heart could take it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'd love to like that. And I just can't.
It's coming back to the family thing. Sadly, you know, for me, I've lost all my grandparents, my parents, like, so I'm kind of at liberty to write whatever I like and post whatever I like. But you know,
Yeah.
obviously ups and downs.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Anne, let's
Okie
call it a day.
dokie. All
Get
right.
back to my editing and transcribing. Be lovely talking to you.
And you. It's been really nice talking to you. All right.